everyone, welcome back to my channel, The Mystic in the Woods. I'm Kate, and it is September 1st, so of course, it's Halloween season, which means we are talking about fall, Halloween, and Samhain decks today. So it is finally starting to look and feel like fall up here in the North Woods of Wisconsin. We're getting hot temps during the day, but like right now it's morning. It's very cool out. You can feel the crisp autumn air starting to come in. We have some trees that are definitely losing their chlorophyll and some that are even turning colors. So it is officially Halloween season in my book. Now, I have a few decks that I want to talk about. And some of these are very, I think, like popular Halloween ones, and some of them are maybe less popular, I don't know, but we're going to talk about them because I'm like super excited that it's fall. But I also want to talk about a little bit about inner child work, and because when I was unboxing the Happy Halloween Tarot a couple weeks ago on the channel, after I turned that video off, I realized that I think one of the reasons I love Halloween so much, especially like this version of Halloween, which we're going to get to this deck, is that it makes my inner child like just so happy. I loved fall as a child. I loved Halloween as a child. My parents always made it fun. Back to school was always made really fun. So fall just has like all these really great childhood memories for me. And then of course, I think that Halloween and Samhain really speak to both our inner child, our inner teenager, what they wished Halloween was like, what Halloween was like for a child, then what you wished it would be like if all those worlds were real, and then there's this reverence for Samhain now as an adult, right? So I just think that Yule does this a little bit as well, the Yule Christmas thing, but I think that Samhain Halloween really just speaks to the various aspects of us, of our inner child, of who we are now, of the Maiden Mother Crone idea. I just think that it speaks to all of it. So we're going to kind of just casually chat about that as we work through these decks. So I want to start with ones that to me are just very fallish. Like I wouldn't call them Samhain or Halloween, but just fall. So the first one is Oak, Ash, and Thorn by Three Trees Tarot. And this deck, if it has one flaw, it's that it's too cute, okay? That I literally, sometimes when I'm reading with this deck, I literally just get distracted by how cute it is. But, like, it's not a fall deck. Like, I don't think that was an intention going into the creation of it. But, like, look at this backing. Is that not just fall? Like, with the acorns and the colors? Anyway, like, look at this card. Okay, so a lot of times, like, I'll be reading with this deck, and then it's just too cute, and I get distracted. So I'm really excited to work with this some more this fall, and maybe be able to get past that a little. But this deck is full of fall colors. To me, it is like everything late summer through fall. So even here where we have flowers, like we still have fall colors. And also to me, this feels like a late summer, early fall type of flower situation, not a spring summer flower. Then we have the Suit of Swords that to me just feels very like a cool, rainy fall day. So I really find that this deck is like everything that I love about fall, right? It's the colors, it is the forest during fall, it is the animals getting ready for fall and winter. Even though, you know, again, we have flowers and we have fruiting things, but we have, to me, that is that sort of, I always butcher the name of this one, but the sort of Lughnasadh through Samhain feeling, right? The harvest feeling, stepping into fall, all of these types of things. I find that this deck holds that space perfectly for me. And it's also like super fun and super cute. And so this one speaks to like, again, that inner child work, right? Now, I personally, generally speaking, I really like my decks to feel a little bit more serious. Like, I like serious tarot decks. Not necessarily dark decks, just like serious decks, right? And this deck does a little bit of that. Like, I think it walks that line between cutesy and serious, whatever that even means. And so I have really loved this deck. Like, look at this freaking Hierophant card, guys. This is so cute. But there's still like a lot to dig into in this image. So anyway, fall deck for me all the way through. I've not had this deck for super long, but I have loved every moment I've had with it. Now, another deck I want to talk about is the Hush Tarot. And this is, if I could only have like 5 decks, right? This would be one of my decks. Like, this is one of my top decks of all time. I absolutely love this deck. Now, a lot of people talk about how this deck speaks to death, decay, rebirth, that type of fall feeling. And I'm not going to say it doesn't, but for me, this can be a very shadow work deck. What's true and what's not, what's the real me and what isn't. But the colors are very fall. And I think that this also really speaks to the aspect of myself that loves fall because it is signaling the beginning of a time of rest. Fall leads us into winter. And winter is naturally a time of rest, right? Nothing blooms year-round. Nothing produces year-round. The world is cyclical. The moon cycles are cyclical. The seasons. And I am absolutely a cyclical being. And when I'm working within those cycles, I am far more productive and far happier than when I'm not. And I think that that is one of the aspects that the adult Kate has come to love so much about fall, is that it is this time of almost, for me, celebrating the rest that is about to come. Okay? It's the harvest. We've just harvested all this stuff. We've just gone through spring and summer and all these harvesting of crops and for me, even productivity, because I do have, like the homestead and all the outdoor things. And fall signals that, look at all we've accomplished, and now it's almost time to rest. And I think that this deck sort of holds that space for me, as does the Oak, Ash, and Thorn deck. And like I said, this is actually my primary shadow deck as well. I actually find this deck to be exceptionally versatile for me as a reader. So there's that deck. If we want to talk about darker, as we start to get into more like the more formal Halloween or Samhain, this is the Tarot of Vampires by Ian Daniels. I've trimmed mine. I don't use this deck a lot because this artwork doesn't really like speak to me all that well. I love the guidebook. The guidebook is absolutely to die for. I would never want to be without the guidebook. So I only use this deck occasionally and always during fall. Like when I really am like soaking up the vampire stuff and the werewolf stuff and that type of Halloween feel, right? And this deck, if this imagery does speak to you, this deck is a very deep diver and it is a great shadow work deck as well. Everything on this deck, everything on these cards is here for a reason, and he explains it all in the guidebook. So anyway, that's this deck. I don't use it a lot, but I do have it because I have the guidebook, and I do occasionally reach for it, and it's definitely, for me, like a Halloween deck. But I do know people who use it year-round, and it's like their go-to deck. Another deck that speaks to sort of that inner child, almost inner teenager type of thing, and again, that space between, that August-September space, is the Everyday Witch Tarot. These backings don't do it for me, and I don't reach for this deck a lot either. However, it really holds that space of late summer, early fall for me, where we are definitely still harvesting things. Things are green or about to turn colors. But then, of course, because it's the Everyday Witch Tarot, we have the broomsticks, we have the hats, we have the black cats, and that's all over the place. So it's a really fun deck for that reason, and it's definitely an easy reader, too. So, like, if you're a beginner tarot reader, this is a really popular deck for beginners. And it's a really popular deck just across the board. A lot of people love it, so, and I can see why. It's not one of, like, my go-to decks, but I think it is a fun deck, and I do like it this time of year. Right as we're coming out of August and into September. So I want to talk about some Halloween decks next, because I want to talk about Halloween and inner child work, and then I've got a couple decks even after we talk about this. So we just talked about like the Hush Tarot, the Oak, Ash, and Thorn Tarot as being very autumny and fall-y in what it means for, I think, the cycles of the year as an adult. Halloween, I think, and we'll talk about Samhain in a second, but I think Halloween really speaks to the inner child in us, right? So it, when we were kids, we loved the decorating and which I still love, but the dressing up and the trick-or-treating, and like if you were like me, then you were watching Halloween Town and these very like witchy Halloween-y movies, but not necessarily horror movies because we were kids. I was a kid. And then as an adult, I think one of the reasons a lot of us still love it, so this is the Happy Halloween Tarot, and this speaks perfectly to my inner child. I think one of the reasons we like it as an adult, and we have so much fun working with decks like this, is because they really speak to the inner child. The inner child who's still in there, who still loves Halloween, who still wants this world to be real. Inner child work for me has been instrumental on my journey and on my path. It's something I'm consistently spiraling back to in new ways. It is quite possibly the most, or at least in the top 3 most influential things I have done on my own spiritual and healing journey. And it continues to be. And I think that decks like this, they're fun, they're kitschy, they're all the Halloween things, they are everything my inner child wishes was real. So we have decks like this that hold that space and speak to our inner child, and I think that Halloween is a really beautiful time for that inner child work, to be bridging that gap between inner child, inner teenager, because I don't think it's talked about as much, and then our adult selves, where we go from a deck like this, we go into something like the Samhain Oracle, which we'll talk about, and then we also have a deck like Oak, Ash, and Thorn, and we start to see all of these interconnected pieces of this season that speak to so many aspects of those that are walking on path like this. Another deck I have found more recently is this. I can't remember what this deck is called. I'll put it in the description below. It's like the Skeleton Tarot or something. And this deck is very cute. And what I like about this deck, the Happy Halloween Tarot I haven't read with this. I just got this a couple weeks ago while I was doing August, where I was really diving into Rider-Waite-Smith imagery. So I cannot speak to how the Happy Halloween Tarot reads yet. This one I have read with, and it's really cute. It's black and white. It still holds a lot of traditional Rider-Waite imagery, but it actually will go a lot deeper than you think. It really can be a deep diver sort of deck. So the nice thing about this deck for this time of year, I think, is that when you want to do more serious tarot work, in quotes, but you still want a Halloween deck, I think that this is going to be my deck for that. So I'm really excited to use this deck more and more over the next couple of months. Look at this 3 of Cups. Is it the 3 of Cups? Yeah, it's called 3 of Mugs. Okay, and it doesn't focus as well when I get closer, but, look at it. It's so flippin' cute. And there's my girl, the Queen of Swords. So anyway, Queen of Knives in this deck. So I think that this deck kind of bridges those two things. Now, the next deck I want to talk about is the Earthly Souls and Spirits Oracle. And this is the Make Playing Cards edition, but I believe it's picked up mass market. I think US Games. It's in pre-order right now. This deck speaks to my inner teenager. So if the Happy Halloween Tarot was speaking to my inner child, this is speaking to my inner teenager and everything she wishes was real. She wishes that this world presented in this oracle deck was real. That these images were real. That these were the colors we really saw. This deck speaks to that. To the witchy world that we wish was real when we're teenagers or early teens, pre-teens, that type of space. I got this deck. This was one of my first oracle decks, actually, because I started to read, and it was like a summer, I can't remember the year off the top of my head, but it was June I picked up my first oracle deck. By July, I was also learning to read tarot, because I'm me, and when I learn something new, I deep dive on it, and I research until my fingers bleed. This was one of my first oracle decks, because I was going into fall, and hello, look at it. with the Halloween season. Like, look at the pumpkins and the witchy hats and everything. I did find this to be a difficult deck to read with as a beginner. It's much easier now that I've spent more time with it and that I'm a more seasoned reader. I would like the US Games edition because I think it comes with a more substantial guidebook. But I'm going to wait and see what other people say about that, just because I do have this edition, so I don't really need a second one. So anyway, this deck can really bring in that, like, super fun Halloween witchy vibe. And it can bring it in, like, I think these decks will pair nicely together. Like, I think this will be a fun combination. And this also is a fun deck. It pairs with a lot of other non-witchy tarot decks. So it can help to bring in that feel into other tarot readings if that's of interest to you. So this is definitely, like, one of my favorite Halloween decks. I just think it's so fun and so pretty, and it so pulls me in, and I love the artwork. And I think I'm going to spend a lot of time with that this year as well. So to come sort of full circle, then we also have the Seasons of the Witch Samhain Oracle. And I got this because I had a good experience with the Yule Oracle. These images don't pull me in quite as much. And on this whole series, I don't like the backings. Personally, like, I really don't like the backings. But I had a good experience with the Yule Oracle, so I decided to pick this one up for this year. This is the only other one. This one and the Happy Halloween are, like, brand new to my collection. So I haven't really read with this either. And, however, there aren't a lot of decks that I think really hold that Samhain space. So when we're kids, you know, we, like, love the commercialized Halloween version. And then sometime as adults, we realize that, like, the power contained within Samhain. And a lot of us develop, who are walking a similar path, we develop a deep reverence for this Samhain, for Samhain the Sabbath, Samhain the, yeah, there's something else I wanted to say, but I kind of lost my train of thought. So while we have this Americanized, commercialized version of Halloween, we also have Samhain, which, like I said, speaks to that adult, even child version, but this adult reverence for what it means to walk a path like this. So I got this deck because I think it's one of the only decks I could find that seemed to kind of hold that space. And I think that is kind of why, some of the reasons why this time of year holds so much significance for most of us, why we love it so much, along with the whole practical things of that leaves turn colors and it's pretty. It's a very short part of the year, and so that makes us more special because it doesn't last very long. So, like, here in the Northwoods of Wisconsin, by Halloween the leaves will be gone and it will feel like winter. So it can be a very short part of the year. And along with that, I think that the other thing, like I said about it, is that I think that it speaks to our inner child and our inner teenager and the adult that we are now. And it has all of these aspects of things that we loved when we were kids and have come to appreciate as adults. And I think it just offers us so many different avenues into what Samhain is and what fall can mean. And it's all wrapped up into this, like, one section of the year culminating on this one day. So that's kind of my rambly chat about why I think we all love this holiday so much, or at least why I love the holiday of Halloween, why I have so much reverence for Samhain, why we love fall, some of my favorite decks for this time of year. This has kind of been my rambly chat. So if you made it to the end, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have questions, or if you have decks you love for Halloween and Samhain, I'd love to hear about them. And all the information is at the link in the description of this video. So I will see you guys in the next video, and I hope you're having a great day. Bye.